Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Well, we have quite a few new people tonight, so I'll give a talk. I was going to put us into small groups to talk about this subject, but I'll just talk about it, and then after perhaps we can develop some conversation together. So we'd been talking last week about the difficulties of the society that we are in and the relationship of the communities to the sovereign government and the ways in which the communities of culture, various cultures, are necessary to the sovereign government, and that it is the work and the responsibility of the sovereign government to allow the communities to exist. And so some of this was in response to the election and how we can see ourselves. You are newly people visiting a very liberal community here. So we were trying to work out how we would be and how we go forward. But the question came up about, yes, but what do we personally do? And I don't think that we answered that so much last week. And so my aim tonight was to try to address that. How do we personally respond to the world that we are in? You know, whether we agree with the new president or not, we still have to live in this world in some way, and we have to, make it right with ourselves. So you heard the word bodhisattva in the chant that we did. The bodhisattvas depend on wisdom, prajna paramita, and that is the dependence. We depend upon wisdom as bodhisattvas. And the bodhisattva is central to this kind of Buddhist practice that we do. And the bodhisattva is essentially one who tries to live in the world without causing harm, to be of benefit to all people and to help people in all kinds of situations. And also this very heroic nature to the bodhisattva is that the bodhisattva also promises that he or she will stay in human form until everybody has awakened. And of course, that's an impossibility. So we have this heroic nature of, yes, we will be here. We will, this is what we will do forever. And even with the impossibility of it, sometimes even the feeling of impossibility to save ourselves, but to save all sentient beings is the task of the bodhisattva. And it is not an easy task. It is a deeply heroic task. So there's the sense of heroic warriorship, spiritual heroic warriorship within the sense of bodhisattva, that the bodhisattva will come to the fore, will help out, will always be there in one way or another. I personally believe in bodhisattvas as angels. I have situations that happen in my life when somebody just appears. I think everybody does. Somebody just appears and helps you, and then they go away and you never see them again. And that happened to me at the airport a few weeks ago. I was coming back from a Zen conference in the LAX airport, and going on the up escalator, right into security guard at the bottom, security guard at the top of the escalator, and then right beyond that, security gates. And my suitcase caught on the edge of the escalator, and I couldn't retrieve it, and it was falling back, and I was afraid that it was falling on the women behind me, and so there was all of this ruckus. And as I tried to grab it, I lost control and I fell backwards on an escalator going upward. Fell on my tailbone and my legs, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody was screaming. Everybody started screaming, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Stop the escalator." So the escalator did stop, and everybody was still screaming. And I had to say, "Please, everybody, please calm down. Just calm down. It'll be okay." And I gathered myself, got my eyeglasses on. They had gone askew. And anyway, they picked me up. I walked up the escalator. Unfortunately, they closed the escalator after that, and everybody had to haul their suitcase up the stairs. Felt bad about that. But at the top of the stairs then, at the top of the escalator, I stepped aside to collect myself. And this man stood with me, and he was just standing there with me, as though he was protecting me in some way. And then I realized that blood was running down my leg. And so the security people went off and got some first aid stuff. So this man, I don't know, there was something shining about him. And he wiped the blood off my leg and bandaged up my leg. We stood there talking. He said he was from Boeing and that he was down there trying to work to reconcile the strike. But there was something about him. He said that he had been in the Navy for 20 years and so he was used to this kind of stuff, like mopping me up. Anyway, I asked him his name. He said he was Adam. And I said, well, that's interesting. Anyway, there was something about him as though he was an angel just standing there to take care of me. And so in our practice, we call it a bodhisattva. Somebody who appears out of nowhere will just stand with you, will take care of a situation, and will move on without any need for any recognition of any kind. So bodhisattvas are all over. They're everywhere. And so in our practice, you see us wearing this rakasu, it is called, which is called a little robe. And it is a symbol of having taken the bodhisattva vow. But it is no easy vow to live. As I say, we can go around doing some heroic deeds and we can do good things, but to really live these 4 exemplary acts of a bodhisattva is very, very difficult. And so few of us really succeed in any given day to exemplify them. And they are the 4 exemplary acts, and they're also known as the 4 wisdoms. And they're charity, tenderness, benevolence, and sympathy. So I'll talk briefly about them, and then maybe we can have some conversation about the world that we are in relationship to what is asked of us spiritually to live, and how difficult. So charity. So the first, and I'll read what I have written here that I was going to hand, and I'll hand these out. You can take these home with you also. So charity, the first is offering alms. So does charity only mean giving alms? What are other forms of giving in the act of charity? Offering alms means not being covetous. Not being covetous means not being greedy. Not being greedy, to put it in worldly terms, includes not currying favors by groveling or flattery. So this question of charity is, we can certainly give alms, and that's kind of easy to hand over $1 to somebody begging on the street. But to really live in a charitable, generous way is not so simple. Even when we see a beggar on the street, lots of times we just turn away. We say, oh, I'm not going to give that drunk another $1 to spend on booze or drugs. And so difficult choices we make about to whom we give and to whom we support and what we feel we want to support. Very difficult choice, especially because so many people are asking for support right now. But the question of not currying favors by groveling or flattery is most interesting. And that is also, to be charitable means not to be greedy or to want some kind of ego satisfaction from people around us. And while I say the word ego, these become so difficult because we cannot act in any egotistical way with any of these for any self-satisfaction or to be saintly or to have people think good of us. And that makes it quite difficult to not want some accolades for the great things that we do in the world. So the second one is called tenderness, and it's using kindly speech. This means to speak with genuine affection. How do we do this in a hostile environment? Does this mean that one cannot be straightforward and constructive in speech? Can kindly speech change the social climate? So right beside me over here is a small statue of the same fellow who you see in the front room who's standing at the entrance. And this is Ryokan. Ryokan-san was one of the great poets of Japan in the Eidō period, and he believed in kindly speech. It was almost a motto for him, and he is known throughout his life for kindly speech. And he was kind to everyone. We know of no instance when he ever got angry. And even I told the story recently, he did not know how to swim. And he traveled around begging and wearing these, heavy clothes that the Buddhist priests wear. And he came to one point where he had to get in a rowboat. A man was going to row him across a river, and he didn't know how to swim. So he got in the rowboat, and the fellow who was rowing started rocking the boat to play with him, to kind of scare him. And he kept rocking and rocking and rocking the boat. And if you're in a rowboat, it just can go more and more and more. And finally, Ryokan-san fell over into the river with all of his heavy clothes on and his shoulder pack and everything. And he was drowning. So the oarsman, the man rowing the boat, jumped in, saved Ryokan-san, and got him back into the boat. And Ryokan-san did not get angry. And he thanked the man for saving his life. And, most of us I would be screaming and yelling, right? Saying, what do you think you are doing that to me? What are you thinking? But I am not Ryokan. Kindly speech is so difficult in the most difficult of times. And so, he is a model for us of living in the mind of kindness. The third wisdom is showing benevolence. So showing benevolence means working out skillful methods by which to benefit sentient beings, be they of high or low station. One may do this, for instance, by looking at someone's future prospects, both immediate and far-ranging, and then practicing skillful means to help that person. How do we do this in a callous social climate? Well, those of us who may be parents are likely practicing this very much so, practicing skillful means to guide your children in the right direction without too many mishaps in their lives, without losing or without making detrimental choices that would affect their whole lives. So we are certainly doing that, benefiting those children. But then how do we do that on a wider scale? How do we do that to benefit a wider range of our community? And this is also very difficult. We live very much in ways that are not so community directed. We don't so much know our neighbors. So we don't know necessarily how to help them or how to just say a kindly word or benefit. Maybe they need something at the store or something like that. We live in such a way that we don't do this so much. And yet the Bodhisattva's job is to be aware as much as possible, to include as many people in their range of ability to help. And then the fourth one is sympathy, manifesting sympathy. So manifesting sympathy means not making differences, not treating yourself as different, and not treating others as different. How do we do this in our political world? Can we see our new political leaders in this way? What kinds of exercises can we personally do to make this change in ourselves? In particular, what the manifesting sympathy refers to is our ways of behaving, our everyday actions, and our attitudes of mind. In this manifesting, there will be the principle of letting people identify with us and of letting ourselves identify with others. Depending on the occasion, there are no boundaries between self and others. And my friends, how difficult is this? How difficult is this to have no boundaries between those whom we quietly despise, whom we quietly dislike, quietly chastise in our own minds, and identify with them. This is no easy stuff. This is very deep spiritual work that we undertake within ourselves silently, without anybody noticing, because this is actually a very fine way to live spiritually, and it's extremely difficult. I say that because I know how difficult it's going to be for me this coming few years, socially. And as I said, I feel this is a very liberal community that we are in, and our concern for the welfare of others is deeply embedded in our philosophy, in our spirituality, in our sense of other and self and other, and the unity of self and other. And this will be very difficult. As I say, I'll take it on myself, very difficult for me not to get angry at the cutting off of support for the homeless, support for the poor, to see families broken up. Anything like that is going to be very, very difficult. So are there ways that we can receive these, meet the world as it is, with these wisdoms of the Bodhisattva, make change in the world within that structure that we are coming up on, and still support all the welfare of all beings, and to not cause harm in the world? Did I say that earlier? The first thing of the Bodhisattva is do not cause harm. And that is extremely difficult, because we probably all use some form of plastic today. We drove here. Maybe we ate food that, is harmful. So very difficult to live today and not cause some kind of harm. As I said earlier, that we go through a whole day and cause harm. What did we do? We saved one tiny bug crawling across the floor. Now who knows where it is, and maybe I'll kneel on it by mistake. insects are diminishing in this world. Insects that do so much important work on our crops, on our, just in the world of the soil, et cetera, et cetera. And we are inclined to step on every one of them. And we are unconscious kind of beasts in this world, we human beings. So it's really, really difficult to live the Bodhisattva vow, to live as a really conscious being who lives wisdom, these wisdoms.